Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories.
This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user MoistWest4212. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom she wasn't the better parent and that it sounded like heaven when she said she'd never talk to me again? I, 23 female, and my mom, 49 female, have never really gotten along. Growing up, she treated me differently from my siblings. I'm the second oldest of 4, and she was always stricter and harsher with me. If I brought home anything less than an A, I got grounded. Even 1 B on an assignment meant trouble. My siblings never had that rule. On top of that, she always commented on my weight. She called me the fat kid, even though I was thin. She never said these things to my siblings, just me. As I got older, I realized she liked getting a reaction out of me. At first, I defended myself, but when I stopped, she escalated and even got physical. On my 18th birthday, while I was still in high school, she kicked me out. By then, I was already staying with a friend most of the time just to get away from her. Now, as an adult, I hardly speak to her. At family events, we might exchange a few words, but that's it. Recently, I was at my sister's place and she had my mom on speakerphone. I was in the background talking to my brother and he asked who I thought was nicer, mom or dad. Without thinking, I said dad. My dad wasn't great either. He wasn't around much and could be harsh, but compared to my mom, he's nicer. I also talked to him more, though not a ton. My mom overheard, asked what I said, and I repeated it. She snapped and said she'd never speak to me again. I said, "You're saying that like it's a bad thing. Honestly, it sounds like heaven." She didn't hang up on me but ended the call on my sister, who was the one talking to her. Later, my sister texted me that my mom took me off her car insurance. I never asked to be on it anyway. She added me without telling me because it lowered her own rate. One day, she just said, "Hey, I put you on my plan." I didn't argue, but now I see it was just another way to control me. She's done stuff like this before. When I was younger, she'd put my phone on her plan and shut it off whenever she got mad. This time was the same. After removing me, she told my sister, since she thinks her dad is the better parent, let him put her on his insurance. I never said better parent, I just said was nicer. She also told my sister she hoped my car got impounded and that she could turn it off through OnStar. My car is fully paid off, so I doubt that's even possible. But the fact she said it was ridiculous. I didn't need her insurance anyway. Before she added me, I was paying for my own. After she removed me, I just went back to mine. Meanwhile, my sister said I was too harsh and should apologize because Mom has done so much for you. I asked what she meant and she said, she put a roof over your head and gave you food and clothes. That's literally the bare minimum of parenting. Now my mom has gone to my grandparents and aunts saying I was disrespectful and need to apologize. From my perspective, I just answered my brother's question honestly. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Of course you're not the a-hole, OP, and sorry, but your sister's got it wrong. Putting a roof over your head, giving you food and clothes isn't the bare minimum of parenting. In my opinion, that's just part of the bare minimum. The other part that your sister is missing is teaching your kids skills. Teaching them what's right and wrong. Teaching them to make decisions. Teaching them that there are rights and responsibilities. Teaching them to have self-worth. Teaching them to regulate their emotions so they don't get controlled by them. And most importantly, which your mom never understood, is that love is unconditional. It's not a, if you don't do this for me, I don't love you. That's how people grow up and end up being in crappy relationships where they get emotionally manipulated. So no, OP, I don't think you owe your mother an apology at all. I think she owes you an apology and an admission of guilt for being the crappy parent that she was, because the way she brought you up was crap. And honestly, I'd be side-eyeing anybody who defends her parenting style. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's move on to the community comments. Ambitious Border 906 says, objectively, your mom is an a-hole, but your sister is approaching a-hole status with her comment. You didn't ask to be born. It is your parents' job to feed, clothe, and house you. You may want to remind your sister that your mom kicked you out at 18, and so her suggestion that a roof over your head merits an apology is wide off the mark. You're not the a-hole. Your family? Meh, not so sure. Cute Wolf 9311 says, not the a-hole. All you did was state your honest opinion about your mother, who is an a-hole. Don't take their opinion for anything. You don't need the approval of a family that is in the pocket of an abuser. Sorry, OP, you should probably cut off contact from all of them. Anxious Routine 5526 says, not the a-hole, and she stopped providing a roof over your head while you were still in high school, so your sister's argument really doesn't hold water. Aladdin's Trees says, not the a-hole. Did your siblings ever notice the way she treated you compared to them? Did she badmouth you to them, convincing them that she was harder on you because you were bad? Or were they just afraid to end up being treated like you were, that they allowed themselves to be convinced? Suggest to your sister and other siblings that it's time for them to set aside childlike thinking and embrace adult thinking. They should not hold to the thinking of their childhood and embrace mother's treatment of them and of you. Use their observation and sense of fairness to make up their minds. Amazon Fairy says, siblings can and are raised differently in the same household. Your sister has a different relationship with your mother. You should explain that to her. You're not the a-hole. You're allowed to have feelings. Why should your mother's feelings supersede your own feelings? You didn't call her old and decrepit, which could be compared to her body shaming you in your formative years. The community agrees that OP is not the a-hole, stated that the mom is the a-hole and that she should talk to her sister to take off those rose-tinted glasses for her mom. Now, OP did not reply to any comments, so we move on straight to the update to see how this story ends. Thank you all for your kind words. Honestly, reading your responses really helped me step back and validate my own perspective. Growing up with my mom has always been difficult. She's narcissistic, controlling, and manipulative. Her whole family has mostly tolerated it, which made me feel like I was constantly in the wrong, always backed into a corner. This situation helped me realize I needed to step out of that mindset. I need to see my experiences from my own perspective and recognize that my feelings and reactions are valid. For instance, talking to my grandmother about the situation confirmed what I already knew. My mom has always treated everyone poorly, and it's not just me. Most family members tolerate her behavior to avoid conflict, even my younger siblings. I've always been outspoken about her treatment of us, which has made me seem difficult. But in reality, I've just been honest about her behavior. As a result of this recent incident, I've decided to go low contact with my brother. He has been influenced by my mom and started calling and texting me with insults about things I supposedly did wrong, things that only make sense from her perspective. I'll probably also go low contact with my sister because I've realized she shares information about my life with my mom, even after I've asked her not to. I want to protect my boundaries and maintain some privacy. Regarding my mom, I'll be moving to no contact. I was already pretty much no contact, but also I'll be including avoiding family functions where she's present and limit any other interactions, so that I can protect my mental health and break the cycle of manipulation I've experienced my whole life. Thank you again to everyone who offered support and advice. Well, OP, there's not much to say, but I think you're making all the right decisions. Some people might say, but family is family. The thing is, when family's toxic, you really don't need them in your life. So here's wishing you all the best in the future, OP. Thanks so much for sharing and take care. And now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user Note2864. Am I the A-hole for removing the ladder on my bunk bed so my knees can't get to me? My sister, female 24, just moved back home with her husband and their daughter, 5, and son, less than 1. My sister was able to convince my parents to make me, 15 female, share my bedroom with her daughter because she and her husband would already be sharing a bedroom with their baby. She also wanted us to switch bedrooms too because my bedroom is her old bedroom and a lot larger than their spare room, which was my old bedroom. My parents at least said no to that. We ended up having my bed replaced with bunk beds so it wouldn't be too crowded. I sleep on the top bunk, and my niece started in the middle of the night climbing up into my bed to sleep with me because she was scared. I guess she gets scared a lot at night, but more here and will go sleep with her parents when she's scared. She is also too scared to go down the hallway to her parents' room because she has to go past the big dark windows in the hallway and past the staircase, which is scary because it's a dark hole. They tried putting night lights, but that made it worse. I usually sleep deeply, so I don't notice her get in, but I wake up sometimes after she crawls in because it gets really hot and she's kind of gross because she's sticky with sweat and I just don't like that. So I realized I don't need the ladder to get to the top bunk and ended up using a screwdriver to remove the ladder from the bunk beds so she can't get to me. I guess she hadn't been sleeping well since I removed the ladder because the school got involved about her being tired all the time and they got in trouble. My sister thinks I'm being petty and I can just suck it up and let her sleep with me if she's scared. I still don't want to though. Well, in my opinion, no, you're not the a-hole and you're not the one who needs to suck it up. It's your sister that has to suck it up. If her little girl, her child, has a problem sleeping, she and the father are the ones that are responsible to see what's going on there and see how they can fix it. Not you. So the only logical solution to me is that the little girl needs to go sleep in her parents' bedroom. That's it. And if they're crowded, they just need to suck it up. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section. And now let's check out the community comments. Freya's child says, not the a-hole. You removed the ladder because you were afraid she would climb it and fall and get hurt. If she is having trouble sleeping, then her parents have to work that out, not you. Friendly Mom says, not the a-hole. You're 15, but still legally a child too. You shouldn't be responsible for a child that isn't yours. Tell your parents that your needs and your ability to sleep at night are also important, that your tiredness is impacting your schooling and ability to concentrate, and it's time to revisit the sleeping arrangements as it's not working. Also tell them that having a 5-year-old climbing ladders in the middle of the night in the dark and without some kind of supervision is incredibly unsafe for the 5-year-old, and this needs to be changed immediately. You need your bedroom back, and your sister and her partner can sleep with and look after their own kids at night. And Stony Wan Kablomi says, not the a-hole. You already had to give up your privacy for a kid that isn't yours. This crap makes me so mad because parents are so dang quick to take stuff away from their kids with no consent just because they can. If your sister and her husband don't want their child in their room, then your parents should have taken her into theirs before forcing her on you. You didn't ask for your sister to move her whole family into your home, and you sure as hell didn't ask to give away your privacy. You should not have to give up your bed on top of everything else. Your sister thinks you're petty? Well, I think she and her husband need to step up, be adults, and help their child themselves instead of trying to pass off responsibility onto another child. Their child is struggling, and that's on them, not you. Additional information from OP's comments. So a lot of people were asking why I didn't just move into the smaller spare room instead of sharing with my niece. But that really isn't an option. If I did that, I'd have to either get rid of a ton of my stuff or pack it away somewhere, and I don't even know for how long. My parents don't want that either. They told me they'd rather I keep my room. Part of it is also that they don't want my sister and her family getting too comfortable in the bigger bedroom, which used to be hers before I moved in there. They don't want this arrangement to turn into something permanent. As for the ladder thing, my parents are completely fine with me taking it off. I don't need it to climb up anyway, and without it, my niece can't sneak into my bed anymore. I'm actually okay with sharing the room now that the ladder is gone, because that was the real problem for me. I just don't like someone else in my bed. I wake up hot and uncomfortable, and I don't want to be disturbed in the middle of the night. I like my own space and I like my things. I just feel wrong to have her climbing in with me. People also suggested stools or other ways she could climb up, but that's not a big deal. If my sister ever tried to give her something like that, I could just hide it before I go to bed. I doubt my parents would even bother buying something like that anyway. Other suggestions like the basement or attic don't work. The basement doesn't exist, and the attic isn't even a real room. It's way too short to be used for sleeping. The bunk beds wouldn't fit in any of the other rooms either. My sister talked about trying light through the window, but that would be a pain to set up and still wouldn't help. And if I had to store my stuff somewhere else to make room for her, my sister would just complain about it being in the way. And for anyone wondering, my niece does know she's not supposed to touch my stuff, and I usually have my AirPods in anyway, so noise isn't the issue. It was never about me not wanting to share a room at all. It's that I don't want to share my bed. Taking off the ladder fixed that problem. Well, the community agrees OP is not the a-hole and that the sister and her husband need to do something about this because it is their child. So now, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. My parents didn't make me put back up the ladder and told my sister and her husband that they had to figure something out. So my niece started sleeping in with sister and her husband in their room. It was too crowded for her husband though, so he started sleeping downstairs. But it didn't work out either because my dad gets up really early. He doesn't get up early for work, actually just to do other stuff. So, my sister and her husband started fighting a lot and he left last week and I think he is now staying with a friend. So now, my sister has to take care of the kids on her own mostly and apparently it's my fault because her daughter misses her dad too and he would still be here if I didn't make a big deal out of everything. Also, to clear some things up, my parents told me that they, sister and brother-in-law, were having money problems. They said they were going to let them live here for a year to get back on track, but that's it. They also never forced me to be responsible for my niece. And I actually did talk to my dad about moving my old bed back in now that my niece isn't sleeping in here anymore, and he said he would have time to help me with that this weekend. Wow, OP, your brother-in-law has the temperance of dry spaghetti and your sister lacks all kind of accountability, blaming you for him leaving? No, OP, that isn't your fault at all and I'm sure you know that. So here's wishing you and your dad have a very nice weekend putting that bed back together. Take care, OP, and thanks for sharing. And now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance and it's by user Sober on Life. If we want your input, we will ask for it, period. A few months ago, a new business investor at work came on board as a manager, and he has been an absolute hard-ass. He is cracking down on anything he considers to be a waste of time, and he is unforgiving. After a week of watching us work, he and the other managers held a company-wide meeting to iron out some wrinkles in the company that he observed since he started. It wasn't an open dialogue though. In fact, that's one of the things he wanted to wrinkle out. It was essentially just 20 minutes of "it's our way or the highway, deal with it." The line, "if we want your input, we will ask for it, period," really stuck with me though, and it was made abundantly clear afterwards that it was directed at me. The company has had a big problem recently with employee turnover, and I was in the position to know why, since I interact with everyone through my role. Essentially, people are quitting because the work they were doing wasn't what they signed up to do. The phrase, "if I knew this is what I would be doing, I wouldn't have accepted the job," was a common sentiment. They accepted the job under the impression that they would be serving customers, answering emails and phone calls, general customer service stuff, but instead they spent about 90% of their time in a hot warehouse packing online orders over and over again. I shared that with management. I let them know what the people leaving were saying in case they wanted to take that into account moving forward. They just thanked me and I left. But the new manager hated that so much that he decided to make a meeting about giving them unsolicited advice. They spoke with me privately afterwards and referred back to when I told them about what the quitting employee said, and they told me that the way they interpreted that was that I was implying that they were being deceitful when hiring people. I told them no, I don't think that at all. I was just relaying what those people were saying about how they felt. They didn't care. They doubled down and said again, "if we want your input, we will ask for it, period." That's how I knew it was directed at me. I asked them for clarification, like what constitutes advice or input, and the new boss said, "unless you're asking us a question about the work you're supposed to be doing, we don't want to hear it. We don't want your opinion on how you think we should handle situations. We don't want your ideas on how you think the business can be better run. And we don't want gossip about what other people are saying about us. Just focus on your job." Fine then, I'll roll with that. No problem. I've worked for them for years and they always appreciated my ideas, opinions, and input up until that point. But hey, if they don't want my input anymore, that's their choice and I'll respect that. I knew it was just the new boss saying that stuff since this sort of attitude with them only started when he did, but the others either agreed with him or were too intimidated to disagree. Either way, whatever, I'll comply with their request. Since then, the problem hasn't been fixed. We've had 2 more people come and go, both of them because they didn't sign up for this, shocker. A third one started about 5 weeks ago, and he has taken his frustration in a different direction. I've overheard him complaining over and over again to other people about how he didn't sign on to stand around in a hot warehouse for hours packing online orders, but instead of quitting like everyone else, he just got angrier and angrier, and then he hulked out. I was upstairs at my desk when I started to hear smashing. I went down to the warehouse to see what was going on, and this guy was taking customers' packages and smashing them out of frustration. A few others in the warehouse gathered and just watched in amusement. It was like something out of a cartoon. The new boss heard the commotion and came down. Long story short, the guy was fired, and I was asked if I knew why he flipped out. I said, I don't know what happened exactly to cause him to flip out, but I know that for weeks he's been complaining about not signing up to work in a hot warehouse for hours. Maybe he just reached a tipping point about it. Not sure. And he said, well, why didn't you tell us? So, of course, I said, because last time I told you that employees were complaining about that, you accused me of implying that you were being deceitful when hiring them. Then you told me to stop gossiping. He had to eat crow a bit on that, which was just so effing delicious to witness, but I was also reprimanded for taking the request too literally, and he accused me of being petty. Whatever though, I don't care, because I had to adjust the stock levels for the goods that had to be replaced, and they lost about $10,000 in the rampage. Some of the items that were smashed cost $2,000 each. Learning that made the whole thing worthwhile. Perhaps enjoying that does make me petty. Well, Opie, I gotta say, too many people are saying they didn't sign up for this, so the company was actually being deceitful in their hiring practices. Other than that, hopefully that idiotic manager has learned his lesson. Thanks so much for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.